Welcome to the Irish Pagan School podcast. Your hosts are authors and co-founders of the Irish Pagan School here in County Waterford, Ireland, Laura O'Brien and Jon O'Sullivan. Fáilte.
Where did the gods of Ireland come from, and where do they go when they die? Well, Dagda agus Fáilte. Hi, hello, and welcome. Jon O'Sullivan from the Irish Pagan School, and that is the question we have from the community at the moment. And so it's a little bit more nuanced, this person's asking it, and so I thought I'd go in and just read out the question to give it the context. They're wondering, are the Gaulish deities the same beings as the Tuatha Dé Danann? If they are not, are they in somehow related or descended from them? And then the final question is, of course, when Tuatha Dé Danann, there are stories where the Tuatha Dé Danann, members of the Tuatha Dé Danann die. And so is that the end of their story? Are they dead? Are they gone? Or do they exist in some other space within the other world? So to start at the very beginning, I guess the interesting thing about the Tuatha Dé Danann specifically is the fact that we have their lineage. In the Irish lore, during the mythological cycle, when we go back to the first oldest narratives or stories about Ireland, it's this tome known as the Leabhar of Éireann. Now, it's not one book, it's a collection of stories that exist in multiple monastic or medieval manuscripts, but all of them correlate to this one story that has been recorded, known as the Taking of Ireland or the Invasions of Ireland, the Book of Invasions. Now, sometimes those invasions are actual invasions with conquest and armies. Other times it's descendants of people coming home. And so as we gonna go back into the mythological era of Ireland's past, we do have a list of a number of different tribes coming in, either finding Ireland empty or finding it occupied, and living there, growing there, having their descendants grow up there on the island. And the oldest and first tribe that we know of are known as the Caesarians. Caesar was almost a matriarchal tribe. She brought in her 50 women and their menfolk, and they existed in Ireland for a while until they were wiped out by the flood, as in the biblical flood that we're very much aware of. After that, we have the Partholonians, who existed in Ireland for quite some time until plague is what ended their time frame. At that point, though, we do have our first reference of the animosity between the Partholonians and the adversarial tribes known as the Fomorians. And the Partholonians beat and defeat the Fomorian invasions and the Fomorian assaults, but it is a plague that wipes out Partholon and his people. After that come the next tribe known as the Nemedians. And the Nemedians come into Ireland. Again, they find it empty because other people have died there, and they live and they grow there. But they too find themselves under oppression from the Fomorians. They don't fare as well as the Partholonians, and the Nemedians are in some way conquered, and they owe fealty and tithe really to the Fomorians. And so it is then the sons of Nemed who, suffering under this oppression, seek out the wisdom of a guy called Fintan, who is one of the remaining individuals from the Caesarian tribe coming in. So one of these older, ageless individuals. And Fintan tells them, you kind of got to get out. You're going to have to leave Ireland. And so at this point, the sons of Nemed, they gather up their people or people who owe them fealty, and they go out and separate across the world. And it is from the sons of Nemed, one particular son of Nemed, that we get the line of the Tuatha Dé Danann. So they're not linked or affiliated. To answer that first question, they're not the same as the Gaulish deities. Each individual kind of nation or representation kind of has their own stories of deity and ancestor deities and where they come from. So that kind of knocks that first question on the head. They're definitely not the same. But also, this does show that they are also not related, because we have specifically, it's Irenbail known as the soothsayer. So Irenbail, the soothsayer, son of Nemed. His son is a guy called Beotach, and it's from his line that the Tuatha Dé Danann are descended. Now, Beotach actually dies in Ireland, but it is his wives and their people who go out of Ireland, and it is said that they go into the north and west of the world to the islands out there, and from there they become people. They grow in number, and they become the Tuatha Dé Danann. Now, we have other mentions of other stories. There's a record of Now, again, it's a poetic expression, so we can't say it's 100% geographically this location here, but it does talk about the Tuatha Dé Danann coming from four great cities in the north and west of the world. Um, Gorias, Findias, Fáilias, and Murias. And it's from them that they bring their four treasures when they come into Ireland. So it does talk about where they come from and where they were outside of Ireland, but then it is their descendants, these sons of Nemed, these descended from the children of Nemed, who become the Tuatha Dé Danann. And on their way back to Ireland, it does say that they do row around to a certain degree. They move around the western places of the world, gathering up knowledge and enhancing their skills in crafts and druidry. So by the time they come into Ireland, the a druid has actually it's a king of the Firbolg, who are the incumbent tribe at the time in Ireland, has a vision of people of crows coming into Ireland, and his druid translates that vision for him into the return of the Tuatha Dé Danann and refers to them as a people capable in every skill and talent, a fleet of 1,000 heroes. So we do know where they come from. We do have their lineage. It's a very fascinating part of Ireland's ancient history. And even now, studying that in a modern context, we do have and have had this constant flow of people coming to and from Ireland. The oldest stories of Ireland are tales of emigration and immigration, and that is core to what it is to being an Irish person, in my opinion. So the latter part of the question then is where things get a little bit trickier. When a Tuatha Dé Danann, a member of the Tuatha Dé Danann dies, what happens? Where do they go? Do they still exist after the fact? It's a trickier one to kind of answer, and mainly because we do have a lot of stories where particular members of the Tuatha Dé Danann, these deities or ancestor gods, guides, guardians, are slain or killed, or none of them actually die of old age, interestingly. Um, but that might be in a different cultural context or because of the time frame that we have about those people. Historically speaking, it is suggested that the Tuatha Dé Danann exist around the Neolithic period of our past, maybe into early Bronze Age. After that, when we get down into the Ulster cycle, which is the series of tales and stories of Ireland's mythological era and past, and the Ulster cycle follows the mythology, and it's suggested that that is Bronze Age. It may be into Iron Age, given the value of smiths such as Cullen at that time. But death of gods, we do have records of the death of gods. During the Second Battle of Moytura, for example, the ascendant king Lugh is battling against his ancestors, the Fomorians, because he is a child of two ethnicities, a child of two bloodlines. Um, and during that conflict, Nuada, the previous king of the Tuatha Dé Danann, who had brought them into Ireland and fought the Firbolg for the ascendancy of Ireland, is actually slain. Him and his wife Macha are said to have be killed. After that battle, Lugh rules as king in Ireland for 40 years until he himself is slain by the grandsons of the Dagda, the sons of Kermit, son of the Dagda, in order to pretty much balance out the death that Lugh had placed upon their father, Kermit. Now, at that point, the Dagda becomes king in Ireland. He rules for 80 years. But in some versions of the story, it said that the Dagda either died during the Second Battle of Moytura, or he carried the wound from the Second Battle of Moytura for 120 years and then died of it then after his service as kingship. Now, from there, as we move into the other stories, the later stories into the Ulster cycle, we still have mentions of these deities. If the Dagda is said to have died before his grandsons took over the kingship of Ireland, Machul, Machecht, and Magren, then they're the ones incumbent as the Tuatha Dé Danann when the final arrival comes in, the Milesians, the conquesting sons of Mill, from which the Gael people are said to be descended. Now, as part of the exchange in power, the conquest there, the Milesians need to make right or make friends with the Dagda in order to ensure abundance and growth within the island of Ireland, because when they take it over by force, it becomes a wasteland. So we have records and references to the existence of these individuals, these deities, after their supposed demise. Lugh is during the Ulster cycle. We have otherworldly occurrences which lead to the birth of St. Anta Maxultum, who becomes the hero Cuchulainn, some of which are linked with Lugh. In fact, during the battles around the Táin Bohulia, the Cataraid Cooley, when Lugh is actually, when Cuchulainn is done and beaten, needed a rest, a fair warrior is said to come and take his place for a period of time, and that is said to be Lugh, because there is this facet of the story that says Cuchulainn is a semi-divine individual and Lugh is his father. Now, this is where we have to talk about the otherworld. And as I said, it does get rather complex. Throughout the entire scope of Ireland's mythology, there are references to an other world, on Sail Ella, an other life. And this is a place outside or beside our own world and our own time. Now we know time works differently there because in stories like Octra Nera, Nera goes into the other world, he leaves, spends an entire year there, but when he comes back from the other world, only a couple of hours has passed. On the other side of it, we have Tir na Nog, Oisin going to Tir na Nog, the son of Fionn McCool. He goes over to Tir na Nog. He spends a couple of years there, absolutely loving life with his beloved wife, has children. He misses Fionn and his friends. He decides to go for a ride back to Ireland. He's warned not to get off the horse because it turns out for the few years he has spent in the other world, in Tir na Nog, 300 years has passed or more in our world. And so when he accidentally falls off the horse, he turns to dust with super aging. Now, the other world is difficult. It's probably entirely other video to talk about the other world, but there is a place within the other world known as Tuatha Dé Danann, the House of the Dead, and it is believed that people who follow an Irish pagan path or people who are of this spirituality go to that House of the Dead after they die. But it's not a mortuary. It's not some kind of sepulchre or hellscape or anything like that at all. It is a house. It's a hostile house. And this is where we go back to, again, another reference to a deity who is presumed to have died, the Dagda. One of the Dagda's epithets is Dagda Donn, and that links him with this power over life and death, which is the Dagda's club that he took up. And so people going through this almost hostile-like experience in the House of the Dead are not there forever, because part of Irish pagan belief is transmigration of spirit, in that the energy that we are embodied within our form at the moment is neither created nor destroyed. It has existed from before, and it is just manifest in the physicality, in my case, as Jon O'Sullivan this time. And when Jon O'Sullivan's time is done, I go to Tuatha Dé Danann, and the energy that is me may come back from there, be born again into another life, another experience, or may go further on into the other world to live and explore over there in An Sail Ella. The difficult parts of talking about death is we can't say for sure. There is no way to say 100% absolutely this is the way it is. And for me, there shouldn't be a declarative statement to say that this is how it is and that's just the way it is, because part of the human experience is this mortality. It is the fact that we are finite. And as much as that might be a source of fear, it's also a source of opportunity or curiosity. Like, what happens next? Let's see where we go. Let's figure it out afterwards. And our explorations of that in our world and in our timeline is healthy, and it's normal and natural to wonder about those kind of things. But then when we take our perspective and we talk about deities, gods, guides, guardians, those who seem to not be touched by time or not be touched by mortality, it means that we can conceptualize the possibility of a life outside of physicality, that when my last heartbeat has passed, when the last breath has left my lungs, who knows what's going to happen then? I would hope to believe that my room in An Teach Dún is secure and that I'll be able to go in and maybe take a rest. Or I might have more work to do and just keep coming back, as I personally believe my energy has done in the past. So A lot of different things covered there. It is, as I said, a very interesting question. No, the Tuatha Dé Danann are not the same as the Celtic deities. Yes, we actually have lineages and descendancies in our mythology which talk about where the Tuatha Dé Danann come from, where they were when they weren't in Ireland, and then also in some cases where they go after they're no longer in Ireland or dead or demised. Um, Hopefully that has been interesting. And it is one of those questions from a point of view of spirituality, from a point of view of faith, that is worth sitting with and being uncomfortable about. But then also considering what can we do in our lives to acknowledge the relationships outside of ourselves and to leave something greater than what we found when we got here, so that those who come after us will have something to live for, something to enjoy, something to experience. We have a whole load of information available. We have over a year's worth of teaching available for free at the Irish Pagan School. Go to irishpagan.school/free. You can pick up a whole load of content there. If you're ready to dive deeper, we have paid classes available at irishpaganschool.com about the Dagda, about the gods, about the Tuatha Dé Danann, about the Morrigan, about the history of the books, about the taking of Ireland, these various tribes. We cover that timeline as well to give into a bit more detail to explain some of this ancestry and where things come from if you are interested. Until next time, look after yourself, take care. Agus Slán. Goodbye.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please leave us a positive review in your podcast listener. Then head over to irishpaganschool.com and enroll in one of our free or paid courses. Slán go fóill, and we will see you next time.